Hi, I'm Matt Shepard. Coming up in this edition of Shep Shower and Shave, we talk one of the greatest linemen in Lions history, Lomas Brown, on this team, on his teams, and why they may have fallen short, and what he's doing now. Pretty exciting stuff with TV and radio. That's coming up with one of the best Lions of all time, Lomas Brown. That's next here on Shep Shower and Shave. We're brought to you by Fifth Avenue, and that's where we are right now on the beautiful outdoor patio. Great food, great service, and during football season, wait till you get a load of their fantasy football draft headquarters. League commissioners, if you want to be the best league commissioner and everybody talking about you, this is where you go. You reserve your draft party right here at Fifth Avenue. Private area with free Wi-Fi. You get a draft board. You get a dedicated server. You get a large pizza. You get drink and food specials for your league and a Fifth Avenue fantasy football playbook for every person with 17 weeks of special Fifth Avenue deals. Here's how you do it. All you have to do is send an email. You're at your computer, you're at your cell phone. It's simple. Request a draft party date and time with Fantasy Draft Party at 5th Ave Royal Oak.com. That's easy to remember. Fantasy Draft Party at 5th Ave Royal Oak.com. We're also brought to you by Northwestern Tech. HVAC is all they teach. They can get you trained, certified, and into the field in only 10 and a half months. Call them today at 248-358-4006. And we're brought to you by Nate Knopf Designs. He designed the Shep Shower and Shave logo. You can find his work on Instagram and on Facebook. Lomas Brown was the 6th overall pick in 1985. He's played 18 years in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl, and you could argue diligently that he's the best offensive lineman the Lions have ever had. And he joins us here on this edition here at Fifth Avenue. You look great, as always. You sound great. You're really busy with TV and radio. It's great to have you. What do you miss about football?
The camaraderie. The guys, hanging around the guys, being around the fellas. You know, just being in the locker room, that atmosphere, just guys just hanging out, swapping stories, you know, learning about different guys because, you know, you got 53 guys from 53 different places, so learning different things about them, but all us coming together for one, and that's the win. One purpose was the win, and how we came together. I know we never got to the pinnacle, but it was magical how our teams were able to just come together and guys just fought for each other and really cared for each other.
Did winning a Super Bowl change you, and if so, how?
Well, I mean, from the standpoint, I look at the league and, you know, playing 18 years, I think if I wouldn't have won the Super Bowl, I think if I wouldn't even gotten to a Super Bowl, I think, you know, a lot of guys say, they could do without it. I think me, myself, putting in all those years, putting in all the time that I put in, and the dedication that it takes to stay at that level for so long, you know, I would have been probably upset that I wouldn't have got to a Super Bowl or gotten the chance to win one.
How do you describe winning one?
Man, Matt, I'm telling you, it's like, first of all, everything you see on TV leading up to the Super Bowl, that week of the Super Bowl, is that and 10 times more. I mean, it's almost like you're in a play. That's what I referenced the Super Bowl to when I played in my first one. It was almost like a stage play where it was a play and we were just out there. And until I get hit in the mouth real good, you know, that kind of woke me up and told me, hey, I'm in a real game. But you're looking at some of the biggest stars in the world, celebrities, Whitney Houston, you know, all these big celebrities, Puff Daddy, all the highest ranking general was at one of the Super Bowls we were at. So it's just star-studded, and it's everything that it's cracked up to be.
Were you more nervous at your first play at Florida, your first play with the Lions, or your Super Bowl appearance?
Wow, I might say my Super Bowl appearance. And I jumped off sides, put it that way. And, you know, it's neutral. It's not
illegal motion.
Right. It's not the home field advantage for anybody. And I jumped off sides. So that was straight nerves. And I remember doing that in the Super Bowl. So I think the Super Bowl was probably the biggest and probably the nervous I was before any game.
How do you feel generally when I talk to ex-football players? I think, and it's funny because I was at Lions practice today, and I was talking with a lot of writers, and we were talking about the physicality of your sport, the difficulty of your sport and the long-lasting effects that sport generally has on players. How do you feel health-wise?
I mean, I'm pretty good. I have areas that, really beat up from playing 18 years, especially on the offensive line. And, it's certain things that I'm concerned with. The talk about CTE, the concussion talk. I'm a plaintiff in the lawsuit. So, those things, long-term effects, what might happen with that. It's different things that kind of go through your mind, especially the more and more that you learn about CTE and some of the things that they're now saying and talking about now. So,
you're still sharp, though. I mean, you walk well. You seem to you've coached your son in football.
Right.
You've been able to make the family activities. You and I have had conversations numerous times. You're still there. Is there a longer lasting concern on your part?
That's what I think. I think the scariest thing about CTE, Matt, is that it's a degenerative disease, meaning that it just happens over time. So, and by it being no cure, you just don't know when. Like they say, you just don't know what guys, how it affects certain individuals, but we do know it's degenerative, so it's going to be there. And when you tell me they're finding it in guys that play 4 years in the NFL and kickers and punters, they finding it in those guys too. So the likelihood that I have it is probably significantly there.
What does the NFL need to do better in that regard? I think they have it's been irresponsible on their part for their alumni. They have not done a good enough job over an extended period of time, and it should be almost, I believe, dare I say, a blank check for the men who have sacrificed and now suffered.
Well, I at least think the guys that were there before the pension. So you're talking some guys in the 80s.
Sure.
So I really think those guys really deserve, like you're saying, if it was an open check, but those guys really did, because those guys had to come back and try to retro those guys, kind of figure out what a pension or a settlement would be to those guys. And you're talking about older guys that are getting a couple of $100s a month from a league that makes a lot of money. So
it's crazy.
And a lot of people on the outside might not understand, but if you're somebody like I am that played the game and you really know what guys are dealing with from not only the standpoint of physically, but psychologically too, being away from the game, being isolated, depression set in with a lot of guys too. So it's a lot of things, not only physically, but psychologically that goes on with players.
This might be a difficult question to answer, but you won the Super Bowl with Brad Johnson as your quarterback.
Yes.
Okay. And when people refer to Super Bowl champions who you can win without a superstar quarterback, they use him as an example. Why were you able to win with him as a quarterback?
Well,
Derek Brooks helps on the other side, Ronnie Barber and those guys. But I mean, in general,
I think Brad. The one thing I think you have to have is your leader has to be one side, meaning he has to be steady.
Okay.
And that's how Brad was. Brad wasn't too up. He wasn't too down. I played with Kerry Collins. It was that. Scott Mitchell. It was that with that. The guys that can stay level regardless of what's going on with those guys. Your team emulates what your leader does. Your leader is normally your coach and your quarterback. So if you got a coach that panics and, gets all overly excited, then your team normally reacts that way, and so on with your quarterback. So I think Brad just being even keel, especially with dealing with Coach Gruden, you got to have a certain steady and a certain psyche to deal with him.
How was John Gruden to play for? Is he different than he is on television?
No, not at all, man. And for me, the reason why Coach didn't bother me and I can handle Coach was I was older than Coach. So I was a year older than him when I was on the team. So, I knew a lot of things. I knew what he was trying to do. I knew what he was trying to get at, and I kind of recognized some of the methods. So they didn't bother me. Guys like Keyshawn, Warren Sapp, those guys like that, they really couldn't handle a guy like Coach Gruden. They really couldn't.
Well, is it more of a mental standpoint?
with
Is it
him, that's
we
what he
use the
takes you
respect
through.
or the lack thereof, disrespect. I mean, was he a respectful guy?
Oh yeah, he was very respectful, but he was hard. He was a hard-driven coach, and he expected you to be a hard-driven player, and he was a disciplinarian. So yeah, a combination of that and a very intelligent coach, very intelligent. We ran the West Coast offense. That's a hard offense to learn. That's a very hard offense to master. He mastered it coaching-wise, so he had to have a quarterback that can go out there and execute it for him, and that was Brad Johnson.
I want you to eat that delicious pasta
it
chicken,
does
that chicken
look
pasta,
good.
while we're
Yeah,
talking.
it-
Seriously, otherwise it's going to get cold. Tony brought it out here. I want to make sure that you're eating it, so go right ahead. We're talking with Lomas Brown here on Shep Shower and Shave. Lomas was a 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, and a unanimous All-American, too, at the University of Florida in 1984. That 1985 draft, man. I mean, that 1985 draft was really, really good.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
was.
And I think sometimes people forget a little bit about when you see that draft and you see that first round and you see who you were taking in front of. I mean, it's quite a compliment. I'm not sure. Jerry Rice was the 16th overall pick in 1985. Jerry Rice, for crying out loud.
Look how many receivers went ahead of Jerry Rice. Think about that. Al Toon, Eddie Brown.
And Al Toon was really good at Wisconsin.
He was.
Yeah.
He really was.
Really good.
You know.
There was also who was the other one? Eddie Brown. Yeah, you brought up Eddie Brown. He was at Miami, so he was taken ahead of him as well. So yeah, I mean, you got some guys who were taken ahead, but that's a really strong class. Bruce Smith was taken first overall. Bill Fralick, Ray Childress, Chris Dolman was in that.
Yes.
That when you have that class, I mean, I know you're close with guys you played football with at Florida. You're close with guys you played football with the Lions and the Giants and the Buccaneers and Arizona and so on and so forth. What about the 1985 class? Do you guys talk at all? Do you guys reflect back on how deep that class truly was?
You know,
Mark Bavaro was like a third-round tight end for crying out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People forget about that, but we never do. You know, we've really never had anything where all of us have really gotten together, but you know, the other thing, if you think about it, you look at the longevity of some of the players on there. Jerry Rice played, I think, 20 or 21 years. Yeah. Bruce played 19. I played 18. It's guys that put in some years.
Chris
in that.
Dolman did, yeah.
Yeah, it was a different game back then. It was a different. You played, for the money, but it was more so for the love of the game.
How is it different now? And if so, is it a bad thing? In your mind?
Everything's a quick fix now. Everything, you know, I got an 18-year-old at the house and a 16-year-old, and you know they want it now. They want it now. They want everything that they see that you had to work for. They think they should have it now, but you have to put in the work for it, Matt. You just have to. You can't skip steps and expect for you to have success. You just can't do that. And I think it's kind of hard explaining it to kids these days. I'm doing coaching, like I coach at Bloomfield High School, and it's the same thing, man. These kids talk about what they're going to do in the pros. They're in high school.
Right.
Some of them can't even get in stances, and they talk about what they want to do in the pros. So that, you know, again, it's a process. It's steps that you have to go through. You can't skip it.
As a football player, what do you think was your most endearing quality?
I think endurance. I think my perseverance and endurance. I think.
What about footwork? Because I heard you were a tactician in that regard.
Yeah, that did help. You know, because my first 6 years in the league, I was 310. So I was more of a mauler.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my first 6 years. And what happened was by playing on that Silver Dome turf and me coming from Florida off of turf, 10 years on that turf, I started having knee problems. So what I had to do was drop my weight. So my last 12 years in the league, I played between 275 and 280.
So what did you have to do better at 275, 280 than you did with 20?
Technique. Yeah. Technique. It was no more mauling. There was no more such things as taking the guy and just taking him any way he wanted to go. I had to learn techniques. It was more angles. It was more my sets. You know, it was different things where your hand placement was. A lot of things I had to concentrate on because I was smaller that I really didn't have to concentrate on when I was bigger. So by me dropping the weight, it made me concentrate on that. So those were things that you have to do. You always have to evolve your game. Like you say, in the NFL, the hardest thing about the NFL is not getting in, it's staying in there.
Right.
Because every year you got somebody coming to take your job. You know, you got coaches. You got it all. So that's the hardest part about the NFL.
Super Bowl champ and one of the best linemen ever for Detroit Lions history, Lomas Brown, with us here on Shep Shower and Shave. We're at Fifth Avenue in downtown Royal Oak. Perfect destination with over 36 cold beers on tap, great food, drink specials, a kitchen that is open until 2 a.m. And his beautiful wife, Wendy, had some bourbon salmon that looked just outstanding today. I mean, I had the coconut shrimp. He's got the chicken pasta. It's fantastic stuff. And don't forget, Fifth Avenue has your fantasy football draft party. Get here, because here's what you get. You get a draft board. You get a dedicated server, free Wi-Fi. You get a large pizza, and their pizza is really, really good. Drink and food specials for your league. And a Fifth Avenue fantasy football playbook for every person with 17 weeks of special Fifth Avenue deals. All you have to do is reserve your day and time by sending your request to Fantasy Draft Party at fifthavroyaloak.com. That's Fantasy Draft Party at fifthavroyaloak.com. We're also brought to you by Northwestern Tech. To learn more, go to their website, northwesterntech.edu. Northwestern Tech, the HVAC school that works. And by Nate Noth Designs. You can catch his work on Instagram and on Facebook. When you were first drafted by the Lions in 1985, and you're born and raised in Florida, you played in Gainesville, what's the immediate thought that comes to mind? Right.
It was cold, man. The funny thing, Matt, the first time I talked to the Lions was 2 picks before they drafted me.
Really?
They didn't work me out. No one contacted me. Detroit was nowhere on my radar. And 2 picks before, Darryl Rogers called me and said, if Indianapolis picks Dwayne Bickett and Minnesota picks Chris Dolman, because they wanted a linebacker, they said, we're going to draft you. And it happened that way. And he called, and I'm on the phone with Darryl Rogers, and he was like, congratulations, you're a Detroit Lion. And you know, it was an awkward silence, and he was like, aren't you happy to be? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Man, had no idea. Only thing I knew about Detroit was it was cold, and y'all made cars there. That's what I knew about up there. So that was about it and everything.
That's funny stuff. Now, he was a different.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a different cat, wasn't he? I mean,
Darryl
Rogers was different. I remember there was one time he's standing at the Silverdome outside practice facility looking up, and somebody had asked him, what are you looking at? And he says, what do you think? How many pigeons do you think are up there? I mean, his mind worked in different ways, man.
He asked us that. He brought us up after practice, and he was like, men, he said, I've been standing here, and he was like, I wonder, can you guess how many pigeons are on top of the roof? And we just looking at each other, everybody. And he was like, it's 87 pigeons up there. I counted them. Now, this man's supposed to be watching us practice. He up there counting pigeons on top of the Silverdome. Remember, he asked, what does a guy have to do to get fired
around here? Yeah,
so
right.
I don't know if his heart was really into coaching at that point. I think he was overwhelmed. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. What is the biggest difference in your experience, the men you've played for, not your position coaches, but your head coaches? And I think people need to realize when your position coaches are really vital to your success. That's who you're closest to. You're not necessarily closest to your head coach. But what was the biggest difference between, we'll use Gruden since we used him as an example earlier, him and all the way through Wayne Fontes, all the way down to Darryl Rogers? Give us the biggest difference between them.
I think, Wayne was a great players coach. I think the biggest difference between Wayne was that the discipline, we just wouldn't have been as disciplined to win the Super Bowl. After me going there and losing one and winning one, we wouldn't have been disciplined enough. And I just don't think some of the coaches that we had, assistant coaches, were on par with some of the other coaches that I played with. I'm talking about assistant coaches, too.
So a staff is vital.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have that. But I love Wayne. I love playing for Wayne. You can see that because every year, towards the end of the season, when they start saying we're going to fire Wayne, we would always win 4, 5, 6 games in a row to get into the playoffs.
The big buck.
That's right. He had that signal on him.
Did you guys, was there a sense of urgency because you had to get in the playoffs, or you didn't want Wayne to leave because he's a player's coach?
We didn't want Wayne to leave because you didn't know who you were going to get in there. We had it good. And again, we didn't have Super Bowl experience. I don't know if anybody on the team that we had during those years had went to a Super Bowl. So we really didn't know what it took. We had a bunch of talent. We had a lot of talent. We got one game away from them, but I just don't think we knew what it took to get in the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl back then.
What was it like blocking for Barry Sanders? Was it difficult? Because, look, I mean, you don't know where he's going.
Right.
And as great as he is, and he's the greatest back I've ever seen, I'm sometimes a little partial to a guy called Earl Campbell, who I absolutely love. But I think there's always been a really bad rap on the Lions' offensive line because everybody felt like if he had Emmett's offense, I said, wait, hold on a second now. Detroit's offensive line was pretty damn good.
Right.
Kevin Glover was a really good player, and they got him in the same round or the same draft, 1985. He's a really damn good player. You were a damn good player. Before his death, Eric Adlasek was a really good player. What was it like blocking for him?
Absolutely. Mike Utley.
Mike Utley was a really good player. Yeah.
I think that line that we had there that you just named off, to me, that was probably the best line that I had when I was with the Lions, and there was a young line, and there was an up-and-coming line. Eric Amnelset was going to bypass me as being the best Lions offensive lineman. He was on my back. That's how good this guy was. Mike, you got a 6'6", 300-pound guard that can move and get out in space. And like you say, a 4-time All-Pro in Kevin Glover. People don't realize Glove was a 4-time All-Pro. That means you're the best center in the league.
Right.
So,
you're not voted in because you're a Pro Bowl. That's All-Pro. You were a 3-time All-Pro. Right.
So we had the weapons. The one thing, Barry running style. That was just Barry running style. I tell anybody, even if he would have been behind Emmett's line, Barry's never been that downhill, just hit it and go. If it's there, Barry's going to hit it and go. But Barry's a creator. Barry's an entertainer. And entertainers, you give them space to work with. And that's what we tried to do while we went to the run and shoot. Some of the different offenses we tried because he was our weapon. He was the weapon that we had. So he was the one guy that you wanted to get out in space and let him do what he does. So to me, they say that about Emmett's line. And Emmett had a great line, but Emmett wasn't no Barry Sanders,
What happened in the locker room with Scott Mitchell?
Well, I mean, with Scott, I'm going to tell you what I think what it was. They dropped – I kind of fault the administration back then, the Lions administration back then, because you take a guy, you go out and you sign this guy, you bring him in the locker room. Think about it. We were only a couple of years removed from one game from the Super Bowl.
Right. When you lost to Washington, you blew out Dallas, and Eric Kramer was your quarterback.
Exactly. You had all that talent in that locker room. Think about some of the other guys we hadn't named off, like a Mel Gray. You talking about Jim Arnold, All-Pro punter.
Willie Clay was
Willie
good.
Clay.
Right.
You Jason Hansen. I played with him and Eddie Murray.
Right.
Benny Blaze, William White, Chris Spielman, Jerry Ball. The list goes on and on. So the talent was there. The talent was there for us to win. The talent was there for us to do it. You drop a guy in the locker room and he's not hungry like you are. He hadn't gone through the struggle that we had been going through. Man, you're a Lions fan. You know how long Lion fans
But how can you tell he's not hungry?
Well, I mean, think about it. You get your money and everything, and it's little things that happen out on the field. It's little things that you demonstrate to the players to let you know. It's not what you say. It's things that you demonstrate. It's a 4th and 1. Instead of going in their head first to get that 4th and 1, when you're 6'5", 240, 50 pounds, you slide, you get marked short because they mark the quarterback where you start sliding at, we off the field.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm back here, you throw an interception, You curl down on the ground, and we're chasing this dude. Man, get up. You throw this. You get up and go after him, too.
Right.
So it's little things like that, man.
Did you ever confront him?
Did Brett Favre do that?
No, he did
Brett
not.
never did that.
No.
Brett threw an interception. Brett's going after the guy, too, because
Yeah.
he's mad. He's upset about things. So it's a level and getting upset.
But you were a leader then. Did you confront him? Is that your place to do that? Because I never thought, look, I didn't have a problem with the Lions originally signing him. My biggest issue, they re-signed him. Okay? They tried something different because they couldn't get anything else to work. If that's your belief and that's your philosophy, so be it. I thought they screwed up when they re-signed him. My problem is, and you mentioned it at the offset, leadership. And sometimes we overuse that word. But I never viewed him as such. He's a lot. I mean, Matt Stafford is. You know, you mentioned Brett Favre. Obviously, he is. Not just because he won a Super Bowl, but because of his aura. But he never seemed like.
But Matt, the good thing about that, Scott didn't have to be a leader. You had a locker room full of leaders already. I don't name off all the guys that were. So we didn't need him to be the leader. We didn't need him. All we needed him to do was to come in here and quarterback this team. We had everything set. Everything set. We disciplined ourselves. We took care of things on the field. Wayne ain't have to worry about a lot of things because of us. So all we needed was the one quarterback. We had it. We had it in Eric Kramer, but we let him go. We had it. So all we needed was that one piece to get to where we wanted to get at. And what did that one piece mean? The more you win, the more everybody wins. The more money everybody gets in that locker room. It's not individual players. Everybody gets paid when you win. Everybody gets notoriety when you win. That's what you call a team. That's what you call a family. And like I said, for them to bring him into that atmosphere and not let him know, maybe it should have been our responsibility, but I mean, upper management, I'm trying to block Richard Dent, Chris Dolman, Lawrence Taylor. That's who I'm trying to worry about. I'm trying not to worry about management things.
I don't blame you, especially when, those names you just mentioned.
Kind of fired up over here a little bit.
Those names you just mentioned, I mean, you're talking about Hall of Fame guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, Richard Dent won a Super Bowl. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, to me, outside of probably when I watched Hugh Green play at the University of Pittsburgh, I thought he was a Heisman Trophy caliber player. But I think Lawrence Taylor might be the most dominating player I've ever watched on TV. I can't even imagine blocking him, and I'll ask you about that here in a minute. Do you regret the prediction against Philadelphia? And I remember, let me just before, I stuck up for you back then, and I stuck up for you for this reason. When the Lions would go into things in the past, people would bitch and moan and say, they're not confident. They don't know what they're doing. They've never been there before. They can't get it done. All the negatives associated with not talking. Then we ask you a question we want the answer to.
Right.
What's Lomas Brown supposed to say? Now, I mean, look, hindsight's 20/20, and maybe it fired up Philadelphia. Personally, I think if that's what it takes to get you fired up, if you're an Eagles player, then you're probably in the wrong business. I think they were just a better team. Do you regret the prediction?
No, I don't regret the prediction. I regret the way that we played. I regret the outcome of the game because of how bad we played. Even if we would have lost that game, if it would have been a better game, then, it wouldn't be no regrets. First of all, the thing I did say, I said, and it was a lot of stuff was taken out of context, and I should have known anyway. But the first thing I said was, if we continue to play the way we've been playing, we're going to beat Philadelphia. So that first part got cut out. It was just like Lomas Brown.
Selective editing, yeah.
Absolutely. But again, being the leader, I should have known that and everything. But again, we throw 2 pick sixes in the first half.
Right.
We give up a Hail Mary. We just didn't play well. And you're right, Philly was good. Rodney looked good that day.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I might have regretted that more.
How the hell did that happen?
Man, I think that might have been
I kept thinking, where the hell was that? as a Lion, seriously, where was that? What would you do if you had a quarterback like Matthew Stafford did?
Oh, my gosh. I wish I tell Matthew, all the time, I wish I could have blocked for him because you could just see it in him, man. The dude is determined. He's gutsy. I mean, the dude is a fighter, man, and that's all you can ask for is for your guy to be like that, and I would have loved that block for him, and I could say probably for the rest of the guys I played with up front, they would have loved to have had a guy like that in back. He kind of reminds me of Eric Kramer, Because
from a mental standpoint, from a tough guy standpoint,
exactly.
right? But not from a talent standpoint. Talent standpoint, he's head and shoulders.
Oh, without a doubt,
close.
he would have been the best quarterback that I think I would have played with in my whole career if I would have played with him out of all the teams that I played with.
We didn't have a whole lot of good ones, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm talking about even the other teams I played with in the NFL. I think maybe Boomer Esiason, I played with him for a year. But other than that, Matthew probably would have been the best quarterback that I would have played for in my entire career.
Yeah, he made a throw in practice today. You're just shaking your head. You're thinking, holy cow. Now, I love your insight on Channel 2's pre- and post-game show. And I had the chance in Indianapolis, once I was done calling the game on Fox, and I came down and I watched you and Herman and Dan do your post-game show. I love your take on certain players, and you don't find left tackles available very often, right? I mean, there are 4 positions. Correct me if you think I'm wrong here, and you can have a bite of that good-looking chicken pasta. I think there are 4 positions that teams treasure and hold on to: quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, and a lockdown corner. So when Greg Robinson's available, it does make you scratch your head a little bit. Jim Caldwell thinks his athleticism is off the charts for a guy his size. He compares him to a guy like Tarek Glenn, who played for Jim in Indianapolis. What do you see in Greg Robinson that gives you hope, and what do you see that needs addressing right now?
He's definitely athletic. He's definitely that. He has the feet to play the left tackle position, even at he's way over 300 pounds. So I know the feet not the issue. The little things I seen, and just from looking at TV and a little bit, it's just little technique things with him, overextending, getting stretched out. And what happens when you overextend as an offensive lineman, when the defensive lineman makes another step, you're so spread it out, you can't step with that guy. So what you do is end up turning, or what we say is opening the gate. You have to do it. Physically, is nothing that you could do. So it's little things he needs to do. I've seen does a little bit waist bending. You know, he's a big guy. You don't want to waist bend. When you waist bend, you make yourself shorter. You know, D linemen, they want to get into the offensive lineman. As offensive lineman, I want to keep that guy out there. So if I got these long arms, I want to use these, man. I don't want to get all down in there. I want to keep that guy away from me and just dance with him. So it's just little things, I think. You know, I talked to him a little bit, and maybe the coaching that he got in L.A., maybe it didn't fit. Yeah, you know, from talking to him a little bit. So maybe this is a chance because, like you say, when you drafted that high and you've changed teams this early, then people start to wonder about you, and your opportunities get less and less because of the price tag that you come with.
That's a good point.
So I think he's going to have to make the most of this opportunity because I don't know if he's going to have many more, to be honest.
He's a second overall pick for the Rams 4 years ago, and he's the highest drafted Auburn offensive lineman ever, which tells you something. And the guy playing behind him is Cyrus Kwanjo, who helped Alabama win a national title, was a first-team All-American, and was the highest-rated offensive lineman in the country when he came out of high school. So it's weird how sometimes things just change, right? Why do they change? Why can a guy be so highly touted as a high school player, help a national champion, and then get to the highest level and say, these other guys are pretty good?
I'm telling you, Matt, it's grown men up there. I'm telling you, the NFL is a whole different level. I'm telling you, I experienced it. I played at Florida in the SEC.
Right.
And, man, I'm telling you, man, when I got to the NFL, it was like, oh, my goodness, man. I mean, you know, guys are going to be bigger than you. You're going to have fast, stronger guys than you. And the thing about it, I'm telling you, I think the thing that tricks a lot of guys is you hear the household names, right? The J.J. Watts, the household names.
Sure, Khalil Mack, right now.
The most problems I had with the guys that you didn't hear, the guys that you didn't know that were good, I mean, that gave me fits. And that's the thing about it. You just got to realize every guy in the NFL is good. This guy is not in the NFL not because he's not good. He is very good, and sometimes they are exceptional, like Barry Sanders. You get exceptional athletes that come in, everybody's probably like this. You know what I'm saying? But then you got the occasional Deion Sanders, Barry Sanders. You got those guys like that. But it's a grown man's league.
I give you a case in point, and I know it's just a preseason game. While Detroit plays Indianapolis last Sunday, Kenny Galladay, who didn't have a D1 offer, he went to North Dakota his first 2 years, okay? So he goes to North Dakota, then he goes 2 years at Northern Illinois. And I'm a MAC guy, all right? But that's in the Mid-American Conference. He's schooling Quincy Wilson, and Quincy Wilson was a second-round pick. He went to Florida, right, where he was second-team All-SEC, and you got a ball to play in the SEC. Right. And you got a MAC guy chewing his lunch and making him wish he was someplace else. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So go ahead.
That's why these guys, these scouts, they now realize you don't have to go to D1 schools. Right. You could go D2, you could go D3. You know, it's other leagues that you, because if you're a player, if you could play this game, if they can find you, your talent is going to stick out. And you're right. I mean, you look at it, man. Galladay, man. He's the real deal. He's going to be a beast.
I mean, he's a big, strong guy.
Sure is.
So speaking of big and strong and fast, who is that defensive end that I don't want to say fear because you don't fear anybody. The challenge itself excites you. Mm-hmm. But who's that guy that puts you? You know, I got to be back in my stance a little bit.
It was three. It was Lawrence Taylor, Richard Dent, and Chris Dolman.
Okay, so those.
And you could throw in Bruce Smith. Bruce was pretty good. I played against Richard and Dolman 22 times because you know they were
in the
right there,
division,
in division. LT 3 times.
Bryce Pop a little bit too.
Bryce was pretty good, man. Bryce, I'm telling you, man, it's the guys that don't just jump out at you, but those guys were awesome players.
That's pretty cool, especially with guys like Taylor and Dent, who I think, well, they're both Hall of Famers, but it's easy to get wrapped up in certain names, but they lived it. I mean, they elevated their game. It seemed like on a regular basis. I think what's interesting going on in the NFL right now, and I support it. I think it's great that players are willing to speak out on social and certain political issues. There are some people who feel like I don't really need to do that because I want to just watch you play football. What's your take on it's funny because I think fans and athletes, quite honestly, try to have it both ways. We say be a role model, but then we don't want you to talk about it. Athletes say I'm not a role model, but then they do want to talk about it. Where's the balance there?
Well, to me, I think you're a human being first. So to me, you have to talk about issues that are affecting you. How could you not?
Right.
I mean, how could you not? Your life may revolve around the sport that you're in, but you're not the sport. You know, so you're a human being. You have families, you have problems just like everybody else.
You're in the community.
You're in the community. You think like everybody else. It's you're a part of it. So to me, when they say athletes shouldn't have an opinion, I don't understand why. That's just almost like telling a human being he shouldn't say anything.
Right.
Because again, Matt, like I say, we live the same thing. You know, guys may have a little bit more fame or make more money but they put their pants on the same.
Sure.
You know, I got my kids. They look at me. They don't look at me as Lomas Brown, the football player. They just look at me as dad. You know, and when they mad, it's something else. So so that I never agree with that, and I don't understand why people would support that. Athletes don't have an opinion or shouldn't have an opinion on issues that affect the world and the community that they're in.
Especially when you're asked the question. You're from Miami, and yet you live here. Why? I
love it here. I'm a Michigander now. I turned in the Floridian thing. I'm a Michigander, man. I love it here. I mean, I think, I love first of all, I'm going to tell you why I don't like Miami. It's hot down there. Okay. It's expensive. It's dangerous. You got to be speaking like 10 languages to go down there. So, I'm not a big fan of Miami. It was better when I grew up down there, but South Beach is so commercialized now.
Yeah.
And so, but I love it here, man. I just love, first of all, I love the people here, but then I just love the atmosphere here. I love the agriculture you have here. I love all the lakes that are here. I love, more golf courses here than anywhere else. More beach line here than anywhere. I mean, Michigan is really amazing to me. I could be in Canada in 5 minutes if I'm downtown Detroit.
Right.
I mean, it's just a lot of things about here that I love here, and that's why I made it home. Plus, my wife's from here too.
Yeah. How did you meet beautiful Wendy?
Well, actually, when I had my smoothie store, she worked for me. So so she worked for me. So we met then and stuff. Yeah. So
you have a son who, in a couple of years, will be in college. You have a daughter who's about to go into college. Soon you'll be an empty nester.
I know.
What are you going to do? I mean, that's a test for Wendy to live with you. You know that, right?
I know. She already said that. She said that when I first retired. But we're going to travel. She wants to travel. We're going to travel. We're going to get out. But, yeah, she was trying to kick me out of the house early and everything.
Yeah, that's cool. Jose Iglesias pays a nice visit here. One of the best defensive shortstops in all of baseball. That's pretty cool. Have you picked up what Detroit is all about? When did you pick up the Detroit vibe? I've said this, and I'm born and raised here. Mm-hmm. I think it's the greatest sports town in America for this primary reason. First of all, we have all 4 major teams.
Right.
We have 2 major universities and a lot of mid-major universities that all get heavily supported. But this is we don't have the skyscrapers of New York, the beaches of Los Angeles or Hollywood, and, the Broadway, if you will, of New York and Chicago. But what we do have is we have our sports teams.
That's right.
We love our sports teams.
They do.
Can you feel that?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
How?
I mean, coming from Miami, all we had down there was the Dolphins when I grew up down there. That was it.
Yeah, the Marlins weren't around yet, and neither were the Heat.
No, exactly. Right. It was nothing but them and the University of Miami. That was it.
It's actually more of a college town than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, down there, really you had a lot of transit or, people that weren't from down there. And there's so much more to do in Miami. It just wasn't like that then. High school was a whole nother level than college and pro down there. That's a whole nother level of high school ball in Miami.
Yes.
But, man, when I got here, the fans here, what they know, how knowledgeable they are about the game, just everything that the guys did here and the fans did here, how they embraced the team. I came here. I was here for '84, right? The Tigers had just won the championship when I was there. I seen the Pistons win it, a couple
2 championships.
times. Yes,
yeah.
and the
saw the Red Wings win.
Yeah, and I see how this city, is energized by that.
Yeah.
And everybody used to tell us in the locker room, if you guys ever won the Super Bowl, they say you guys would own the state of Michigan because this is a football state.
I think when the Cubs broke, was it 109 years? And they won the championship a year ago, and people talked about the size, that would be nothing compared to if the Lions won the Super Bowl.
I agree.
And I don't say that with bias. I say that in true belief that the people here love the Lions so much. Can you feel their agony? Can you feel their frustration and their disappointment since 1957? I don't know if people can comprehend that. There's not many. I mean, Houston, Jacksonville, Detroit, Cleveland. Those are the 4 teams that have not played in the Super Bowl, all right? And Jacksonville's an expansion, and Houston's an expansion. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, Cleveland is an expansion because it used to be the Baltimore Ravens. So that frustration / disappointment, can you feel that? And how does that resonate with you as an athlete?
I feel it because, we're the ones out there in the public now, the alumni. Yeah. We're out here now, and man, you can hear it with the fans. And I just tell the fans, I just give them a hug and tell them, I'm sorry what we put you guys through, because I'm a Lions fan now. And oh my goodness, man, it's hard being a Lions fan, man, because I'm telling you, man, it's trying being a Lions fan. So I understand their frustration now. I can see it. And quick thing, I seen the 57 ring.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, I got a chance to see one of those. There's not many of those around, but I seen the 57 ring. So, yeah, it's just something to behold. That was it.
All right, I'm going to ask you 2 more, and then I'm going to let you dive into that chicken pasta. Maybe we can get it heated up for you a little bit, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to take that with me.
Are you
okay? I need to enjoy this by myself.
Yeah, I understand that because it's good stuff, and I had it when Spindler was in that chair, and it's really good. Although that bourbon salmon looked outstanding.
You probably had a bigger chair when Smith.
No, not necessarily. Help me with the coaching aspect. I mean, you're such a good communicator. You're such a lover of life and football and young kids making a difference. How come you didn't take that route?
That commitment. You got.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to love coaching, and I didn't love it.
Okay.
I mean, those guys put in 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days. Put it this way. When the Giants, this has been years ago, the Giants' assistant offensive line position came open. Mm-hmm. So I called Jerry Reese, and this was the year after they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was a general manager.
Absolutely.
Really good man. Yeah.
Called Jerry Reese because he was the head scout when I was there. Talked to Jerry. He was like, look, Lomas, I'm going to just tell you personally off the record. He said, you don't want to do this. He said Coach Coughlin puts in 16 and 17-hour days, and we just won the Super Bowl, and he putting in those, him and his staff putting in those kind of days. And when he said that, man, I thought about that. Yeah. And you know, if your coach is doing it, and your head coach is doing, you know, he expect them to do it too. Yeah. So you got to love that game. You got to love it. And then also what Coach Gruden told me once. He said, Lomas, I don't have any friends. He said, the guys on the team are my friends because I don't have time. This man goes to bed at 12 and back up at 3 every morning. Wow. Every morning. Man.
That is a tough schedule. Lastly,
I couldn't do it.
What excites you about this Lions team? And I don't mean, your post-game show on Fox Sports Detroit with Rubik and me. I mean this team right now. What do you think they need? What do you like most about them, and what excites you most about them?
I think the biggest thing that can help this team is if Amir is the guy that we think and that they drafted him to be, with or without the offensive line.
He's a difference maker.
Yeah,
isn't
he got to be there. Remember, it was a lot of years where, and I'm not trying to put him in the category of the little fella, but it was a lot of years, we had to make shit flying. We had guys in and out. And Barry was still Barry, average a career 1,500 yards a season. So Amir is going to have to establish himself as Amir, the guy that we know can get out in space, make people move. We could throw the ball off to him, and he's going to get that yardage from us. We know what Theo can do, and I'm not saying that Amir hadn't tried to do that. I know injuries are part of the game. I know what he's suffered with. But if we could get that dynamic, I think that'll help Matthew so much and help that passing game. And the other person is Eric Ebron, that I'm looking at. Matt, the middle of the field is wide open. Every offensive play, the middle of the field is going to be open because of your defenses. Your tight end can make a killing down the middle of the field. He's a big talented guy.
He's a mismatch for a lot of teams.
He is, and that's what beat us a lot last year. Opposing teams' tight ends. I think they caught more touchdown passes against us than any other team because the middle of the field is wide open. So we need to reverse that. Ebron needs to be the man in the passing game, and Amir needs to be who we think he can be.
Amen to that, man. I'll tell you, last year, remember this, quarterbacks had their best rating of the season against Detroit. I mean, literally, Detroit's playing against the best quarterback every single week. Why? Because they're just chewing them apart. And against the blitz, they had the best quarterback rating in the NFL. Lomas Brown, awesome to see you, man. I can't wait to work with you this fall. It's great to see you. We appreciate Wendy letting you stop on by, too, because we know these nights they're precious, man, especially in the summer and especially with a full household that you got there. And I can't wait for week one when we break down the Lions, and who do they play? Giants the first week? Yeah, Giants on a Monday night, right? Monday night. Right. So you and I will be staying up late, and we're always thankful for Tony and the folks here at Fifth Avenue for hosting Shep Shower and Shave. Don't forget, Fifth Avenue is your fantasy football draft headquarters. When you reserve your draft party at Fifth Avenue, you get a private area with free Wi-Fi, you get a draft board, a dedicated server, a large pizza, drink and food specials for your league, and a Fifth Avenue fantasy football playbook for each person's 17 weeks of special Fifth Avenue deals. Email them today, fantasydraftparty at fifthavroyaloak.com. The best place for your fantasy football destination, and great food, fantastic food. We're brought to you by Northwestern Tech as well. Get into this field, get trained and trained right. Northwestern Tech, HVAC is all they teach. They've been doing it for 38 years. Call them today, 248-358-4006. And Nate Noth Designs. See his work on Instagram and on Facebook. Thanks for listening.